Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I've got my fancy big green screen up in the background, so it is time for another pre-recorded video sesh, if you will. So as you can see from my title, I have come to see, as many people have, if not everybody who has fully given up coffee at some point, trying to quit coffee, at least the way I did it, totally sucked. Completely sucked. Now, if you haven't seen my live streams, which are on my channel, by the way, I kept them, I put them up there. I actually had a situation where on Sunday just passed, this Sunday just passed, for whatever reason. Well, actually, no, that's not true. Not for whatever reason. I think obviously God made it happen, but He made things happen in such a way that I absolutely found the taste of coffee disgusting, and I had no interest in having any. I did not desire any whatsoever. It was absolutely horrifying to me. Couldn't stand it. Didn't want it. All done. So that was one thing. So I could not stand the taste of coffee. Now, I love my coffee. I have, in fact, loved it too much at times. I have actually had too much of it at times. And for a long time through my life, especially because I was bulimic, because I was binging and then purging, and then in order to help myself restrict, I drank lots and lots and lots of coffee. In high school, I drank copious amounts of Diet Cola, but that became a huge amount of caffeine through coffee, especially when I was at university. So when I was 19, I started university at 19. I finished when I was 21. But I reached a point where I was drinking probably 6 to 12 Diet Cokes a day. And by the time I was 21, I was drinking the equivalent of two full pots of coffee a day. So you know the big the filter coffee machines with the 10-cup pots. I was drinking at least one of those. Well, no, probably two of those a day. Well, so the equivalent of 20 to 22 cups of coffee. Yeah. By my final year of university, so when I was there, I was 21. It wasn't helping me with energy. In fact, I would find myself having a hard time staying awake in my lectures. I was at a point where I was able to drink it black because I just wanted the caffeine hit. And not only was I drinking that much of it, but I was having headaches, I was having blackout spells, I was having dizziness, I was having memory issues. My left arm was always tingling. My right side would often fall asleep or go numb, and I didn't care because my whole reason for drinking that much caffeine, coffee at that point, but Diet Cola up until then, was because I knew that caffeine was an appetite suppressant. And I spent 35 years as a bulimic. And I had brief moments where I kept telling myself, well, I'm eating now. I'm eating food like everyone else does. So therefore, I'm fine, I'm cured, I'm fixed. And not acknowledging the fact that coffee was playing such a massive role in my life. Even, other than when I was pregnant, because during my 2 pregnancies, I didn't drink any regular coffee at all. And I didn't even drink that much decaf, not until the end of my 3rd trimester, to be honest. But before that time, I wasn't drinking much coffee at all. And I think even though I was feeling the withdrawals, I was eating enough other stuff during the pregnancy that I didn't notice the withdrawals as much, for whatever reason, from the caffeine. Although I would say with my older son, who will be 23 this October, so October of 2023, he'll be 23. I would say that towards the end of that pregnancy, I definitely couldn't wait to have regular coffee because I was of the opinion, well, what's the point of drinking it if it's decaf, right? So towards the end of that pregnancy, I was definitely looking forward to it. And the first thing I did after my son was born was, after I was in the recovery room and after I went in, because he and I were in hospital for a few days. He was born on time, but he was very, very small. He was only 5 pounds 3 ounces when he was, no, sorry, 5 pounds 5 ounces when he was born, and he was 5 pounds 3 ounces when we left the hospital. But his heart had been in distress. He was an emergency C-section for that reason. My waters never broke either. So because of all these different issues, they wanted to keep us under observation. So instead of being in and out within a couple of days, I was in the hospital for 5 days. And after my second day there, when I wasn't feeling nauseous as a reaction to the anesthetic, and they got me nursing eventually. After that, urgent stuff happened. My first request when my husband would come visit us at the hospital was a giant cup of coffee with milk and sugar. So yeah, that kind of puts it in perspective, right? And for the longest time, I took my coffee, with, as we do in Canada, which is where I grew up, with cream and sugar. Well, not cream, with double milk, double sugar. A double. Normally that actually means double cream, double sugar, but in my case it was double milk, double sugar. And the problem was, though, as soon as he was born, is I was already desperate. I had to get rid of all the pregnancy weight that took me 9 months to put on. I wanted it gone right away. My first thought was, it didn't matter if I was a brand new mom. It didn't matter if I just had a C-section, if he was, a bit small for his age, if there were things they were checking on, if he ended up, his first few months of life, he ended up becoming quite ill. He got a couple of different bronchial infections. He developed bronchial asthma. He was in hospital with nebulizer. So we did get frequent flyer miles for having to bring him to the hospital quite a few times. He had ear infections and all kinds of other things when he was an infant. But other than him, my other big worry was, how in the world am I going to lose weight? Okay, I'm not pregnant now. The weight has to be gone. And my thinking was, well, I'll do what I used to always do. If I just drink lots of coffee, I won't be hungry. I'll just starve myself and I'll lose the weight. Not understanding at that time that my metabolism would adapt. So I would lose a little bit of weight, but I could never quite lose that much weight. It also didn't help the fact that because of all the stress and the anxiety of having an infant who was in and out of emergency and hospital stays because of respiratory infections and bronchitis and now bronchial asthma and other issues, ear infections and so on and so forth, because of all of that going on, the stress was sending my cortisol levels through the roof. And that was holding on to all of the fat and all the weight around my middle. I didn't know that. And the fact that I was trying desperately to restrict. And then I would, of course, I was a carb eater. I didn't know this whole thing about eating animal meats or animal sources of protein, because that could be eggs or that could be the different meats. I didn't know that was what we were supposed to do. I figured if I'm eating, whole wheat toast, whole wheat bread, and good lunch meats, and, low fat this, and sugar-free yogurt, and all the stuff with sweeteners, that was, all the good healthy stuff. Eat your vegetables, eat your fruits, which I was doing. that those were the causes of a lot of the problems I was dealing with. But even if I had figured out, even if I had known back in 2000 about the importance of a carnivorous diet or a ketogenic diet or even just a low carb diet, even if I'd known all that then, um, I think the fact that I was so filled with anxiety and stress over the poor health of my infant, my cortisol would have just been through the roof. I don't think it would have made enough of a difference for me to stay with a low carb diet. I would have easily gone off. I would have given into, well, I want donuts and I want coffee with sugar and milk and I want all the fancy drinks with the whipped cream and the flavors and the treats and I want all of it and I'm going to have it because I'm in stress. And so I thought I was drinking coffee to try to control my appetite. And then when I couldn't control it anymore, eating baked goods or junk food because, well, I deserve it. I haven't eaten in 12 hours. I haven't eaten since breakfast and now it's almost dinner time. So I deserve a treat. And I did eventually, two and a half years ago, I'm grateful because I found my way to keto and then to carnivore. And nothing against keto. Keto was great and it did help me start to lose some of the weight I had put on. If you haven't seen my other live streams that are on my channel right now, and if you're new to my channel, I at that point was weighing in at 200 pounds, which was a bit more than what I weighed with my second pregnancy. When I had my younger son in 2003, I was about 200 pounds. Now, I'm 5'5". Okay. I'm now 50. I'll be 51 this year. But at that, so for me, and I sit around somewhere between 118, so 118, and 121 pounds, typically. That goes up and down every day, and that obviously fluctuates with hormonal changes each month, although I'm now perimenopausal, so that again is a totally different change as well. So while I've actually skipped a couple of periods here and there, or they're spreading out farther and farther apart, as I'm getting closer and closer to menopause, that I'm sure is going to be a little bit different too. But for now, every month, whether I've had a cycle or not, my hormones go up and down, as I'm showing you with my hands, because that's what I like to do. I talk with my hands. Sorry about that. So I didn't even weigh that much with my second pregnancy. And it is very common for women, if they have more than one pregnancy, that additional pregnancies, you tend to put on additional weight because your body knows already, oh, wait, I remember this. We're growing a human. We need to hang on to the fat. We need to put on weight. And some of that is going to go towards looking after the baby. Plus, we're growing a human and our placenta grows to feed the human, and that is going to add weight to us as well. Having said that, I think I weighed in about 190 when my older son was born, and I was just under 200 pounds when my second son was born. And I was 200 pounds-ish. The reality is I might have been even more than that. But by that time, I was so depressed, I refused to step on the scale. Which is also another challenge for me. Coming out of an eating disorder and disordered eating and poor body image background, that was something I had to do almost every single day. Now I don't. Maybe once a month or two, I'll get on the scale just to check and see if things are still settled, so I kind of get a sense of where I'm at. Because I want to know that I'm weight stable, which means I'm probably not going to drop any more weight. I could, but I might not, and that's okay. I also want to just make sure that what I'm doing, how I'm eating, what I'm doing in that regards is stable. That's the only reason why I do it. I just have a tape measure just to kind of check and see, yeah, everything sort of fits the same, or hey, wait a minute, this fit me last month and now they're really loose. But I don't think my weight on the scale's gone up or down. And that's why I check that once a month just to confirm that I'm actually still the same size. Also, because when I started losing weight when I was on keto, and of course I lost more through carnivore, but when I was still losing weight, when I first started to lose the weight on keto, I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I honestly didn't think it would work, but I figured it was my last attempt at getting my weight under control without the binge, purge, restrict cycle, because that hadn't worked and I knew it wasn't going to work. And I had already decided to love myself enough to not put myself on another one of these fad crazy diets. And so I refused to diet. I had started to just accept that my weight gain was inevitable because I was in perimenopausal and I had an underactive thyroid, and that was just life. That was just how I was meant to be. And with my fibromyalgia and my back injury and my spinal injury from 8 years ago now, since I can't work out with heavy objects and I can't go to the gym, I figured that was it. I was done. I had no other choice. That's where I was at, where I was stuck, and that was just, I was resigned to my fate. And what with COVID being out, and we had been in the lockdowns and all this sort of thing, there were worse things I was dealing with at the time. The fact that we could even still get coffee to take away was like one of those things of, well, you know what, we can't sit anywhere. We can only go, coffee and treats to go. We can't have anything in. So you know what? I thought, damn it, this is what I'm gonna hang on to. So when I was actively bulimic, and even when I wasn't perhaps as active, but I was going through the same mental gymnastics that comes with an eating disorder, and that was certainly the case the last year or so leading up to COVID and me getting my health back when I say health, I'm referring to mental, emotional, physical, and I think even more importantly, spiritual. When I got that back, it put everything in the right place. But even up till then, I wasn't happy. And I knew I needed to do something, but I had promised I wasn't going to go on any more like crash diets. They hadn't worked for me in the past anyhow. And with all my other physical issues and challenges, it became less of a concern. And so sort of the things I clung to at that point was coffee. Not to control my appetite, because I was eating carbs. I was a carb eater, not a meat eater, and it didn't matter. Even if I drank coffee, within a couple of hours, I still wanted something carby, as well as caffeine at that point. So why do I share all this? Because I've known for decades that coffee is horrible for IBS. And in my case, I was drinking so much of it, it was really setting it off. Now, given the fact I was also eating a lot of carbs, that didn't help. It certainly did not help me. The thing I find crazy is that one of the things they recommend that you eat if you have IBS is pasta and white bread, not whole wheat. So even with a gluten sensitivity, I was being advised to eat these things to help soothe my IBS, which is, what's the term? It's a scientific term, so I've heard it expressed through Bart Kay's videos, but obviously, it's not that it's just his term, it is a scientific term, but it's contraindicated. Why in the world, if you are gluten sensitive, why would you eat pasta? So what I went to do instead was I found pastas that were not made with gluten, that were not made with wheat. They were made with potato flour and rice flour. As it turns out, because of those two items, which are high in oxalates and starches, I was eating those instead. And so I wasn't feeling that immediate reaction that I would get from gluten, but I couldn't figure out why I was still getting bloated and why it was still causing me issues, because I had no idea that at the time that it was actually causing a big problem for my whole body. It was contributing to my weight gain. It was contributing to the fat around all my inner organs, especially, in the midsection. I didn't know this. I wish I knew then what I know now. Having said that, I also understand I had to go through things in life in order to get to this point. So God allowed me to go through these different things in order to be able to come to the point I'm at now. Now, I've kind of taken a massive detour, but coming back to my original starting point, right? Trying to quit coffee sucked. So what happened? Well, like I shared in the beginning of this video, on Sunday that just passed, which was, what was that? That was the 15th, I believe, of January. And so we were all up in the morning, my husband, my older son, and I. Our younger son, not that he isn't a part of the family, he is, but he has moved back and is now living in Canada again. We live here in England. We're in Colchester, England, which is just northeast of London, about an hour away, not too far. We've been in the UK for 13 years. Our younger son went back last year for work as a chef, and he's decided to stay. So on Sundays, it is our older son and my husband and I, and the three of us go to church together in London. Anyways, we were up early, we all had breakfast, and decided that we would grab, my husband's like, oh, well, let's go now, let's grab Starbucks on the way to church. Fantastic. The thing that I would normally love and have enjoyed greatly, I was excited for. I had made myself a cup of coffee here at home, took a sip, and it tasted absolutely horrible. I was hoping, maybe the water from the kettle tastes off, maybe the kettle needs to be de-lime scaled. I don't know. For whatever reason, the coffee is not appealing to me. Fair enough. We grab coffee from Starbucks. I take 2 sips. Same thing. Made me feel absolutely disgusted. And I had maybe a quarter of it, and I still felt that way. I don't know what it was, right? And so I wasn't sure what to do. I remembered a video by Bart Kay where he talked about himself. He cut out coffee because he's doing a Lion Diet carnivore challenge for 90 days. So he's cutting out all coffee, all caffeine, all of it, just water, salt, meat. That's what he's doing. But I remember him saying in one of his videos that he was drinking hot water instead of coffee. And I thought, oh, well, let me try that. So we have at church, we have people who volunteer, and they have a great big urn full of hot water, and they put out, they can make you either tea or some instant coffee for if you want to drink after service, right? Part of fellowship time. And I went and I just asked, hey, can I get some hot water? Which they gave me, and I found drinking it in that moment was delicious, and I had no desire for any coffee at all. And for the next couple of days, the mere thought of coffee made me feel like I was going to throw up. So I thought, oh my gosh, wow, I've quit. I've quit coffee. Yay! This is it. I feel amazing. Well, let me back up a step. I felt great that Sunday. Okay. And as much as I did not have any desire to drink coffee the next 2 days, the truth is, I really didn't feel that great. You know, I announced on Sunday, that's it, I've quit coffee, I've broken my addiction, and I thought I had. And then I found by day 2, so by Tuesday, I was white knuckling it. I was barely making it through. And I realized, wait a minute, this sucks. Why am I quitting? Yes, I know it's not great for me. Yes, I understand that ultimately, would it be better for my overall health if I was able to just completely cut it out? Yes. But why do I go into things like this with this all or nothing mentality? You know, it took me time to eventually cut all vegetables and all fruits and all the fruits, all the carbs, everything. It took me time to eventually cut that all out of my diet. I didn't do it all in one day, right? It took me time to work my way up to eating the fatty ground beef and the egg yolks and the bacon that I enjoy. I wasn't able to do it immediately. It was too high fat. My body wasn't used to it. So just as I'm still slowly easing up from 20% up to 23% fat, little by little, why do I feel like I need to cut out all coffee immediately? And I realized I don't have to, and I'm not doing it for the right reasons. I cut it out completely because I thought, oh, well, that's what you're supposed to do. And yet there are many people following a carnivorous or keto or ketovore or a low-carb animal-based diet who still enjoy coffee. And they seem to be doing quite well. And do I hope to eventually perhaps cut it out fully? Sure. But what I realized was true, it was that I am not feeling compelled to start my day with coffee. I don't need to have 2 or 3 cups of coffee just to feel energized. I've been so lucky because when the dogs get up in the middle of the night, we've now got them trained where if it's, say, 3 in the morning, they go out, they do what they have to, and they come in, and all I say is, nope, bedtime. And our greyhound, he goes right to his bed, back to sleep, and the spaniel gets back on the end of our bed to sleep. And then I get to sleep for another 4 or 5 hours, which is fantastic. That gives me 8 to 9 hours of sleep, briefly interrupted, but still deep REM sleep, which is ultimately what I want. Now I'm finding when I get up in the morning, my first thought is, I gotta get coffee. It isn't. In fact, it's not. I'm up, I have water. If I'm hungry, I will make myself a bit of breakfast. I'm also, the last couple of days, I have found as I'm eating higher fat and I'm trying to adjust my body to get used to it, I'm eating way less because I don't want that much, which is great. I'm not as hungry. That's a good sign. That means I'm definitely becoming fat adapted, like even more fat adapted, if that's a possible scientific thing. But I don't want to eat as much. I'm truly not hungry. And when I've delayed having any kind of coffee, I find it's not a problem. So I did have that 2.5 day reset. God gave me a reset because I feel like, you know what, I could go and probably okay, for example, yesterday, I went and so Tuesday, I shared with everybody. I was honest and shared. You know what? We tried. My husband asked if I could go out and get a Starbucks coffee for him and I, so I did. Well, I wasn't going to have one. And I thought, you know what? It's one coffee. I've not had any coffee. I don't have to have this. I am not using it to feed my bulimic cycle. I'm not using it to suppress my appetite. I'm not using it for any of those reasons other than I was wanting to enjoy a coffee. So I got a cappuccino, I got him a latte, and when I got back and I sat and I sipped it and I savored it and I enjoyed it, it was wonderful. And after that, I didn't want any more coffee. And I felt fine. Yesterday was similar. I made the decision that I wanted to go sit. I wanted to go to Costa, which is another favorite place I go for coffee. But I had breakfast at home first. I had a bit of decaf tea, lots of water, and I thought, you know what? I want to get out of the house. I want to enjoy a nice cup of coffee that I can just sit down and savor, maybe do some of my virtual puzzles or listen to something from YouTube on my phone with my earbuds in, which I did, and I watched some videos by Annabelle's Awareness. I watched a video update from Indigo Nilly. I watched something from Bart K. And then, you know what? And then when my coffee was done, I took about an hour because I plugged in my electric chair to charge. And then that was it. I was done. Finished my coffee, gathered my things, went home. And it was wonderful. It was just a nice break out of the house. The sun was out. It was cold, and it's cold today too. Now, keep in mind, it is not cold for those of you in Canada or the States who are used to winter. All right, it was -1 yesterday. But for England, that's cold. And although I grew up with weather far colder than that, living in Toronto and other parts of Canada, but having been here 13 years, I got acclimatized to the milder winters, and so yes, it was cold. And even today it was chilly. Today, my husband asked me to go out and get a couple of things that he needed. So I thought, you know what? He's going to be busy for an hour or so. I'm going to go into Cafe Nero and get myself a really nice single origin Brazilian coffee bean in a large cappuccino. I'm going to do some virtual puzzles. I'm going to listen to some classical music through my headphones. When I'm done my coffee, I'll leave. And I made it an event. Now, I don't see that as being a problem. It's a coffee. I ate breakfast beforehand. I haven't been hungry since then. Last night, I had a few bites of the sirloin that I cooked up. And then I was full. I think because I've been practicing mindful eating, which is a whole buzz term. But the way I see it is I follow the advice of eating when I'm hungry. But in the past, I've eaten so fast, been like, oh my gosh, I'm hungry, and I've eaten so quickly. I've not given my brain enough time to register the fact that I'm full. And so I've eaten more than I've needed. And I think that's probably part of why I've had bloating issues as well. But I have found a cup of coffee a day, if that, has not been a major factor with my IBS. I think it helps that I'm sitting down, I'm sitting upright, I'm drinking my coffee nice and slow, savoring it. And also the fact that when I do eat, I make sure I sit, because we have these sofas where the end seats, they're lazy boys. So the end seats have electric power and you can lift up the feet. So you got the footrests if you need them. But when I'm eating, I sit with the footrest down. So I'm upright. So that way it's not like I'm folded up in half or stretched out and my posture is weird, because that will affect the digestion. But I'm sitting, I'm being aware of what I'm eating, I'm taking my time. And when I've done that, I found that actually I'm full faster. And whatever's left, I just put aside and save because why not? If I'm full, I don't need to eat more. And for me, I don't need coffee now to control my appetite any longer. And so I don't have to go and cut it all out immediately. People who are doing it, say for example, like Bart and Kay, if they're doing these carnivore challenges, the line diet challenge, if you're doing them, and then you've decided, yes, I have to cut out coffee and tea, that's fine. That's amazing. If that's working for you, you do you, of course. For me, it sucked. I never felt so nauseous and headachy and inflamed and irritated as I did when I wasn't drinking coffee. And that was just for 2.5 days. And there may have been other factors, and yes, I think some of it was withdrawal. And maybe I am making an excuse, and maybe it is me just trying to keep up with my addiction, but I feel as though the craving to constantly drink it and to control my appetite with it because I have to lose weight, I feel like that I broke. I got a 3-day reset, and now I can drink it simply because I enjoy it. I got the craving for a coffee as far as the idea of not an instant cup, because that stuff is pretty much garbage, but to have a cup that is made in a cafe by a barista, whether it's a Starbucks or Costa or Cafe Nero or an independent. Crema is a place in Colchester that we like to go to often, though I haven't been there in a while. And they're dog friendly. You can bring your dog in if you're with your dog, if you have your dogs with you, which is really cool. Or an independent that makes it well. So anything that is made nice with a espresso machine, that's different. I don't want to have an espresso machine at home because I think then I could be tempted to drink more than I need to. But to be honest, it's one a day around midday. It's been great. It's a little bit of me time, right? I go out, it's just me with some music and a nice, someone else has made it for me, cappuccino. That's what I drink. I can drink it black, but I think because I was drinking so much black coffee, that probably had an even greater effect on my guts and my IBS. Because when you have it with milk, it sort of reduces the acidic effect, I believe. I'm not positive, but I think it has an effect. So as I see it, why not? And for me, again, cutting it out cold turkey for a couple of days was probably fine, and it sucked badly. And it ended up being probably okay because it gave me a reset. I didn't feel like I had to have it the minute I woke up. But I've had better sleep, deeper sleep, longer sleep ever since I've kept it to just 1 cup of coffee. And I don't feel like, maybe 2 or maybe 3. In fact, no, I'm good with 1 a day. And I don't crave it all afternoon, which is amazing. And for me, that was the biggest thing, was I had been consuming so much of it that I was constantly feeling the need to have it. And now I don't feel that. So will I eventually probably give up coffee? I might. We'll see what happens. I know, ultimately, is it the best thing for me to drink coffee, even if it's just 1 cup a day? No, it's probably not. But is the effect on me relatively minimal based on how well I'm eating and all the healing I'm having? Yes. So if you want to quit coffee, that's great. And honestly, I mean that with all sincerity. If you have the willpower to do so, my kudos to you. I don't. But I also don't feel like I have to. And I'm not going to try and quit or change things just to be like someone else if that isn't the thing that I feel I need to do at the moment. I think for me, it's keeping my fats higher, Um, being mindful when I eat, taking my time, eating slowly, drinking lots of water through the day. By the way, in case you're wondering, when I make tea, I make like the weakest tea possible, and it's decaf. Um, any of you who are familiar with the Peanuts characters, um, Lucy and Linus, you know, there's this joke. I find it funny where Lucy has made Linus a hot chocolate, and he asks if she basically took a brown crayon and dipped it in hot water because it's so weak. That's essentially how I make tea. So I'll put a decaf bag in my mug, boil the water, pour it over, squeeze it out, ready to go. So there's very little in it. There's just enough of the decaf tea in the hot water to change the color of it. That's it. So that's what works for me. I hope you guys are doing well. If you guys found this entertaining or helpful in some way, thank you. And I hope you'll share it with others. I will have more live stream content coming up soon and more recorded videos as well, but I think I'm going to probably do more live streams now because it's fun and it's great to communicate with you guys, you know, sort of in person, if you will. Hope you guys are doing well. Have yourselves a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.